Classroom of the Elite Season 2 just finished a little bit ago, and I'm not gonna lie, it didn't live up to the hype. I mean, it wasn't a bad season, but it wasn't at the level people praised it at. Ever since the first season, it's been getting treated as a god of light novels. Everybody's me writing the fuck out of it. Ayanokoji can just be sitting in the back of the classroom, daydreaming, and he'll have the whole fanbase screaming. I never did and still don't think it's a bad anime, but it's being blown way out of its league for how good it really is. It never crossed my mind how overrated it was until season 2. People were making it sound a lot better than what it really was. It was around the time I found a guy on YouTube called Saib. You probably never heard of him, but he actually makes really good content. He made one of his videos on the new season, and that made me more analytical I guess on how good it really was. But I wanted to wait until the season was over before I made a video on it. I didn't want to judge it early and have it turn out to be really good halfway in. Classroom of the Elite is one of those really good average shows. If you were a sane person, you would say it's pretty good for what it is, but you're not having an orgasm from every episode. Most of the episodes are never anything crazy, and it doesn't need to be that good to be appreciated. There's lots of animes you could like without them being a pioneer or doing anything out of the ordinary. It's just one of those good shows you picked up off a friend or something. That's like 2% of people who like the show. The other 98 are the people idolizing the fuck out of it. A lot of people say the light novel is way better than the anime, and that's probably mostly true, but you never really see people complain about the show. There's nothing bad about the way it's getting adapted. I remember some people saying the show did swap the pacing and order of some stuff, but it's not enough to mess up how the story was meant to be. There's a lot of shows that do that, like JoJo, or they swap the order, or even take out some details that the manga had. The anime doesn't need to be a one-to-one version of what the original source material was, and a lot of the time, they're not trying to. A lot of anime studios put in their own directive choices in telling the story, and for anime and a manga to be the exact same, it's basically impossible. If you wanted to sum up manga, it's really good art and that's it. It's not close at all to having to bring animation, color, music all into one. And I'm not saying one is better than the other, but they just aren't the same thing. So it's not surprising they don't do everything in the same order. The way you tell a story is just way too different for the both of them. The anime cooking the manga would be like Promised Neverland, where they just gutted the whole story and made it a PowerPoint presentation. And back then, a lot of animes were made to promote the manga or light novel. So either way, they're trying to show the show's best qualities. If the anime was representing it that badly, then I wouldn't even mention Classroom of the Elite, cause I wouldn't know how it looks in its best form. But the anime is close enough to what the novel was going for. So even if the light novel is better, and it probably is, the anime is still being accurate to how it was meant to be. Out of all the me writing the anime is getting, 90% of the reason why is Ayanokoji. He's basically all the appeal to the anime. So many people highly rate him, and I don't know why. At first, like half of me was thinking it was some kind of irony, or like an inside joke from the light novel, and I was just a dumbass who never caught on. Cause there's really not anything I can say about his character I like him for, or not at the god status people put him at. The light novel came out 2015-ish, or around there. So maybe he was the one to make his personality popular. His character doesn't have that much individuality. There's at least 5 other characters that came out in the last 2 years that have the same build as Ayanokoji. The smart guy being a dick and manipulating everyone, but doesn't realize he's a dick archetype. His whole gimmick is being monotone, and that he sees everyone as a pawn for winning. I don't know how you can look at him unironically and say that's one of the best written characters ever. I remember seeing a How to Be Like Ayanokoji video in my recommended, around when season 2 first dropped, and I was looking for clips or something. I was trying to look for that video for this one, but there's a there's a whole fucking mini market for that shit. People are milking that shit dry, cause apparently a lot of people want to be like Ayanokoji. In order to be like Ayanokoji, you need to study physignome. Damn, nigga got a whole degree to be an anime character. There's probably at least a dozen people who are watching this for real advice that got jumped thinking they're gonna awaken something. I can imagine them sitting in the back of a classroom, near the window, looking at leaves falling off a tree, trying to radiate protagonist energy. Overall, I feel like it's taking itself too seriously for what it really is. There's levels to it, but it's like the show had a vague idea of what they wanted it to be about, but the anime didn't know how far they really wanted to take it. Like Kushida's whole character. She's supposed to be one of the main threats in season 2, and she was being built up since the first one. Her whole character was a mystery. We've been waiting for a minute to know why she's been a piece of shit on and off, but she's just a girl that got angry on Reddit and got caught, so she snitched on the whole class. It's like the anime remembered they should probably use her character, cause they had that whole scene in the first season and never used her again. I think the anime is trying to go for something for you to take seriously, with Ayanokoji coming from an insane asylum, but it doesn't mix well with the ordinary high school shit. Sometimes the anime does bring up stuff that's more grounded, or more related to an anime high school. If they make it a power fantasy, nobody's gonna take it seriously, but that's what they did. Ryuan is one of the only good main characters. His backstory didn't sound like bullshit. He grew up in a bad environment, so him being a piece of shit makes sense. His character felt a lot more fitting for the show, and what they should have been aiming for, if they wanted you to take it seriously. A backstory like that makes sense for a high schooler, but then you got Big Dick Koji beat him into submission, and he killed his whole character in one interaction. And that's as far as we probably go with his character, even though he got built up since the start, and one of the only interesting characters, outside of Ayanokoji, is like Saitama at One Punch Man, but they don't make it ironic. or funny. Ayanokoji's only purpose is to not be bored, and when you're saying out loud, it sounds a lot more goofy than how the show wants you to take it. He really couldn't give a shit less about anyone or anything going on in the story, and that's kind of his whole purpose being there. But that ends up making a paradox, cause the show wants you to take the story seriously, but then they make a protagonist that doesn't care. There's nothing to keep Ayanokoji motivated. He doesn't have any goal in particular. He's in spectator mode for majority of the time. He barely takes part in anything. If this was in any other context, with another show, all you would hear was how dog shit the anime is for having an MC like that. The show tries to play it off as him being discreet and not showing us his intentions, but now half of me feels like they don't know how to write around him, and him not having any growth isn't a bad thing. There's lots of good animes with a static MC. Those kind of shows are more about the MC shaping the story, instead of vice versa, but even those shows have direction in them. Ayanokoji doesn't really have a reason for being in high school. He's kind of just there, so it makes the plot feel kind of empty. And maybe they show it more later on, in the light novel or some shit, but it's already 2 seasons deep, and still not having anything to go off of is kinda tough, I'm not gonna lie. Even though the intent of the story is in a gray area, I still like it a lot. For what it is, it's still pretty entertaining. I just don't think it's the pinnacle of light novels, or whatever people are calling it. It's just a pretty good show, yeah.